We're teachers. We get pajama days as our holiday bonus. We're teachers. We have to pay money to go to our staff holiday party. We're teachers. We get new mugs as holiday gifts. Every year. We're teachers. Our district gives us Jeans Day passes as our annual holiday gift. We're teachers. We love when non-teachers say things like, "You get 2 full weeks off for winter break? Wow, I wish I had that much PTO." We're teachers. We buy our students mechanical pencils as holiday gifts just to see them laying on the floor by the end of the school day. We're teachers. It's an exhausting time of year, so we let ourselves have 2 cups of coffee instead of just 1. We're teachers. After returning from a break, we start counting down to the next one.
Clint, I had no idea you were a teacher. No wonder they're all Democrats. Welcome back. Beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Radowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com. As, of course, we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours with some really incredible human beings in studio today. As, of course, there is a lot of very crazy important news to talk about, as South Park has a new special that is very tumultuous. And it looks like the majority of Americans agree with taking Trump off of the ballot, as there's also another attack against the Beanie Man and Jack Posobiec. What's going on here? Well, we're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more for the next 2 hours. So make sure to share this broadcast with your friends, with your family members, as of course you could also participate in the conversation by going to lukeunfiltered.com. And by signing up, you guys get the ability to call in to the show when, of course, we go over to Rumble. The show on Rumble has been doing hyperbolic numbers. It's absolutely insane. You could be a part of those conversations. You could call in. You could ask whatever questions you want just by becoming a member of lukeunfiltered.com. Another way to participate is through mysuperchat.com, another one of our websites where you guys get to say whatever you want, and every Rumble rant, every super chat, every mysuperchat.com will, of course, be read. Mysuperchat.com is something we like a little bit more because, unlike YouTube, they don't take 30%. And, of course, your text, your super chat actually shows up on the screen whenever you guys have anything to say for the conversation. I will be looking at all of those super chats and all those conversations, as, of course, this is going to be a very jam-packed conversation, as there's a lot of really crazy news to get into today. And helping us break down a lot of this news is Michael Seifert, the CEO of Public Square. Michael, for the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. Good to be here. My name is Michael. I am the CEO and founder of Public Square. You can find out more at publicsquare.com. We're the nation's largest marketplace of businesses that do not hate you. They love your human liberty, so you can put your money with businesses that aren't run by communists.
Exactly. Lots of commie-run businesses, lots of ESG, DEI, social credit score shenanigans. We're going to get into all of that, and I really do think what you're doing is one of the most important things that anyone could be doing, fighting the good fight. As we've been talking about this idea, you put it into practice, so thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a really great conversation. Joining us for this conversation as well is Clint Russell of the Liberty Lockdown podcast.
Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown, as well as Tower Gang. I have had Michael on my show in the past, and I'm so thrilled to have him here. As anybody that follows my work, I have been deep diving ESG and DEI for the longest time, and I cannot thank his efforts enough in the fight against woke capitalism. It is destroying our country, and I believe strongly that Public Square is, in fact, the path out, as opposed to just me screaming about it. He went out and he did it, and that is awesome. So, Steph.
Who are you, Steph? And you're pledging today to also dominate the conversation and talk throughout all of it, right?
Sure. My name is Steph. We are Change staff, and I'm currently the button pusher, and I will dominate this conversation.
Hell yeah.
Damn right. We look forward to that. Everyone, of course, does as well in the chat. As we already have a super chat from Charles. Thank you so much for that super chat. I don't think you said anything, but thank you so much for your support, as, of course, this goes towards supporting this independent media operation that is growing and expanding from here, as these issues that are affecting America are more important to talk about than ever. As, of course, we have our first article here from the New York Post that is titled, "Most Americans Back Colorado Ruling, booting Trump from ballot. This is according to the latest poll numbers highlighting the approval of the Colorado Supreme Court that disqualified Donald Trump because he allegedly was a part of an insurrection, which he was never found guilty of in a court of law. Why are people celebrating a man being kicked off of a ballot arbitrarily, undemocratically, getting rid of the will of the American people? Well, I think it's a sign of some very serious troubles ahead of us, as a lot of people are pointing to the possibility of a larger potential civil clash between the left and the right, which hopefully doesn't happen. But this is why communication is so important, as a lot of people are saying, wait, I don't believe these poll numbers. I can't believe these are true. Do you guys believe they are true with the sentiment and what's happening here in America?
Personally, I don't believe the poll numbers. I think it's bizarre that it would say the majority. But I looked into it a little bit deeper, and it was actually 30% allegedly of Republican voters. And the only thing I can conclude from that is it's probably just the DeSantis and Haley supporters that are just saying, I just don't want this guy, so I'm going to say, yeah, I support him being removed from the ballot. I think it's probably that. I don't think it's not a philosophical analysis that they're making.
No, and I don't think the vast majority of people even understand what happened in Colorado this week. I think that there's a perfect point you just mentioned, which is people don't like Trump. So if the poll question is, do you like this means of not allowing him to run? Meaning, do you like this method for making sure he can't be in your life more? They're just going to say yes to whatever that is, which is deeply concerning because Constitution be damned is essentially what they're saying.
Yeah, you brought up a very important point here, because how you ask the question during a poll is indicative of what kind of answers you will get. And there were many instances that I personally saw of the same issue, but the questions were raised a little bit differently, and the poll numbers were completely different from the original question and issue that was asked, because of the way that people could manipulate language. And I think we're seeing a lot of that, especially when it comes to insurrection, as the law that they're stating is over 100 plus years old, and there's no court conviction. This is all based on assertions. This is all based on them saying, we got to kick him off. He's dangerous. He tried to overthrow the government. No, he didn't. And if he did, he did a really poor job at it, since he was absolutely not successful and did transition power peacefully, even though there was what a lot of people now call a major setup of Donald Trump supporters at the U.S. Capitol, as there is a lot of circumstantial evidence highlighting how the U.S. federal government played a major key role in that major incident on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol that now we are finally learning more and more about, as the video footage is actually being released on Rumble. And as soon as it was released on Rumble got a lot of attacks that shut down its services for about 2 days, and it made it difficult for us to do the show, as we were doing the show from Tim's place as well, and we were doing all virtual shows there. But let's look at the numbers here, because this is, Steph, let's put the browser on here. This is a YouGov survey, and it says 54% of American adults approve of the ruling, which asked nearly 3,500 citizens. Perhaps more shocking is that 24% of Republicans approved of the decision, though 66% disapproved. And I don't know who they're polling. I don't know who they're asking here. But as we've learned through almost every single election cycle, the poll numbers are bunk. Usually they're filled with crap. Usually they have not a lot of truth in them at all. And just like we saw when Donald Trump was first elected, they were saying Hillary Clinton, 99% chance, 98, 97, 96, 95, and then the numbers kept going down and down. Just like the level of effectiveness for rushed experimental gene therapy that we can't talk about here on this broadcast.
Well, what concerns me the most about this isn't really the poll, but rather the lack of principles by which the vast majority of Americans analyze these types of topics and questions. It's like for instance, I don't think there's a politician in America that I despise more than Nikki Haley, like legitimately. And yet, if I were to be polled saying, hey, we're just going to accuse her of insurrection and remove her from the ballot, do you support that? And my answer would be no. My answer would be, let's beat her legitimately. Let's beat her at the ballot box. We don't need to be removing candidates. I think that she has the potential to lead us to World War III and a nuclear holocaust, and I still don't want to see her removed from the ballot by fiat. So I think that's the real problem, is that there's just not a lot of principled thinking in this country.
Well, and a lot of people are basing assumptions on very faulty information. Your comments earlier, Luke, just reminded me. Ted Lieu, the congressman from California today, tweeted, "The Colorado trial court held a trial," in all caps, "and made rock-solid findings of fact that Trump engaged in insurrection. SCOTUS would not have any basis to overrule the findings." When was the trial?
There was no
Where
trial.
was the defendant? Where was the plaintiff? Like, they're just redefining terms.
Yeah.
So again, if I'm the average American that's just passing through the internet and I'm not actually analyzing what really went on here, then I get pulled a question of, hey, there was a trial. They found him guilty. Do you think he should be able to run? It's like, well, I don't know. I guess not. So the people just don't have more than a 30-second glimpse into what's actually going on. So the left is really good at this, because the Ted Lieu's of the world will come out and they'll just redefine language because they know people won't take the time to prove them wrong.
Right. Well,
Exactly. And this is why independent media is so imperative and so important, because if we're not here breaking down all the bullcrap, all the lies, all the weaponization of information, people just buy it. And I really do think we're at an incredible time right now where independent media is being challenged and tested more than it ever has, because we are literally going up against a $1 trillion psyop empire that thrives off of lying to the people. It could be taken down by, we're still here on YouTube, family-friendly show, poop posters. I'll just leave it at that. and memes that are wreaking havoc on the official narratives that they're spending so much time and money on. And we're just showing them point blank, hey, none of this propaganda works. Now, are we patting ourselves too much on the back? Because I personally think we also need to do a lot more than we're doing right now. I think we are in a better situation than we ever have been when it comes to speaking truth to power. But for me, I think we still need to do a lot more work.
oh, yeah. I mean, we're not taking any victory laps here. I will say that the success we've had in reaching as many people as we have is a great step in the right direction, but we need far, far more of it. But to Michael's point about how people will have this kind of 30-second glimpse at the news headline and they don't really dig any deeper. Good example of this, the Senate staffer that was caught filming a sex tape last week. I was talking to my mom and my dad about it. They had no clue. And these are like relatively in the news, in the know type of folks, and they hadn't even heard about it. And what I realized is, like, if you're not on Twitter, that story didn't actually circulate hardly at all. And it's so bizarre when you have that realization, because you're like, this is the story for 48 hours. Like, it's just memes and jokes and commentary. But if you're not in the independent media circuit or on Twitter or one of the handful of free speech adjacent platforms, you're oblivious.
Yeah, well, now there's a second tape, by the way. We're going to talk about that on Rumble when we go over there. But sorry, Michael.
It's just if the grandma walks through the Capitol building, she faces prison time. And if a dude literally engages in a sex act with another staffer,
All good.
all good. In fact, you won't even hear about it. And to your point too, even when the mainstream media apparatus did cover it institutionally, meaning outside of the independent media ecosystem, outside of X, they didn't actually say, any of those outlets, they didn't actually say, hey, here's the facts of the case. Like, this dude did this objectively. This actually happened. They said, Republicans allege.
Right.
This person that conservatives accuse. Like, it was all about the whole conservatives pouncing thing.
There's video
There's
evidence.
literally video.
And the dude,
he's the one
dude's
that did
fired.
it.
And the dude got fired
Yes.
for doing it. And they're like Republicans, homophobic attacks on Senate staffer. It's like, dude, it's not about homophobia. This is about this is very unprofessional behavior, is it not?
It was so weird too. And then he posts the weird non-apology on LinkedIn, which was strange. Yeah. And the media wouldn't bother touching it. Now we got another one, and they're gonna let it sweep on by. But again, I have friends who are literally serving prison time for walking in after they were escorted in by Capitol Police.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't. That part to me is so hard to reconcile in my mind, how there can be a group of people, and I know them, that just say, oh, yep, January 6th, those people absolutely deserve to go to prison.
Yeah, even if you just walked around, even though if you were just let in by police, even though you were a credentialed journalist that was there recording what was going on, you still are going to jail. You still are going to be investigated. You know what? Not even that. You don't even need all that now. You're outside of it telling people not to go in, but you make some comments about it afterwards on social media, jail right away. And that's exactly what happened to Owen Schroyer. By the way, we interviewed Owen Schroyer on Timcast just a few days ago. And if you haven't watched that video, I can't recommend it enough, as his insight and his story is absolutely crucially important, as right after his detainment, the FBI announced, hey, we're going to be investigating more people, a journalist specifically from The Blaze. No one's safe here, as they're going after people for just political commentary. It's clear as day, and it's a very dangerous escalation that, I'll be honest, I think about a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, hey, they're putting out all the stops. They're going after individuals for just speaking their political expressions and opinions. Why wouldn't they come after me? And I think this is the kind of sentiment that they want. They want you in a fear state. They want you in a low vibrational state where you have to question everything you do, because then you, of course, don't get to speak as honestly as you can. You hold yourself back, and even that little bit of hesitation stops this larger kind of synchronistic moment of speaking truth to power, which is very, very powerful. So in a way, their kind of fear state already has worked in some ways. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that sentiment, and I don't know how you guys feel about our current state of affairs, since it definitely feels like we might be the frogs in the boiling water.
It feels like name of the game is demoralization. I know quite a few people that are facing two temptations every day. One temptation is like, let's press in, let's fight, not give up. The other temptation is like, F it, man. Like, if my neighbor Sally is getting arrested for walking on the Capitol steps, which, by the way, we don't address this enough, that she pays for with her tax dollars, and when they spend all our tax dollars, they just go print more money to cover up from the fact that they already spent all our tax dollars. So, like, she pays for that, and yet, that's the punishment she faces. Like, well, then what hope is there for me? I sense that there are a lot of folks that every day wake up and feel like they're torn between changing the world and just kind of riding it out as it exists.
Oh, I think there's tens of millions that feel that way. But personally, I'm in the position of like watching all of this transpire, especially where they go after independent journalists and they prosecute them, and now they're even willing to arrest and imprison some of them. And I guess because of my constitution, how I'm made, it just makes me more dedicated and committed to this path in a way that, like, if I'm afraid to speak at jeopardy of imprisonment, then it is more important than ever that I speak.
Yep.
If that makes sense. Because if I don't, then that means I am allowing that future to become inculcated. Like, it's going to be permanent, and I can't accept that. I can't raise a family in a country where I can't speak freely, where journalists can't go and cover protests, which is really what J6 was. I mean, it turned it into a riot, but it was originally a protest. And it's just like, if we actually allow these maneuvers to chill our speech and prevent us from doing what we're most passionate about, then we've already lost.
I've been thinking a lot recently about how my wife and I have a 13-month-old daughter. It was our first child, and I feel like the temptation when it does creep in of, gosh, let's go detach and let me just spend time with my daughter and ride this out and all this. I get gripped with a level of like, it's super selfish though, because if I just want to kind of enjoy and turn the world off and do that in a way that may be good intention because I want to spend time with my family, I don't want to have to worry about at the end of the day, I'm leaving her the remainders of whatever I don't salvage. And so, man, I'm with you. Like every day, especially over the last year, I've felt an immense amount of passion to save the country. And we have to. It's why I love independent media so much, because while you do have a target on your back that is exorbitant, to say the least, there's also a beautiful responsibility that comes with that, because voices like yours will empower everybody else to finally be able to speak out too. I think about this often. The purchase of X was huge toward this aim, because before last year, like you even try to say anything remotely controversial and you're just gone. Now at least there's this flood of free thinkers that are actually starting to speak. And while they're trying to take us out, I am seeing a level of boldness arise, because we're finally seeing like, oh my God, we're not alone. There's strength in numbers here.
And because one person stands up, a second person will as well. Exactly. And as soon as Twitter did, Rumble became very prominent. And before Rumble, there was other social media platforms that were just absolutely obliterated. When you look at Truth Social, when you look at all these other platforms, they were destroyed, especially when it came to Amazon, what is it, OES kind of getting involved there and saying, we're just going to take all you down because you might have the former president of the United States on your platform, which is crazy. So
that was Parler, not Truth. Truth is still around, but Parler got obliterated.
You're
Well, they
absolutely right
thought
about that.
they planned J6 on Parler. Remember that? So they said, hey, January 6th was planned on this social network. It was actually their SMS provider. So there was a tool called Twilio that flagged it to AWS. AWS said, screw it, they're gone. And then we learn in hindsight that after Parler was in the dust, off the app stores and off AWS, completely forced to start over, we learned that J6 was actually planned on Facebook.
Yep.
It wasn't even planned on Parler.
Yep. And there was multiple events, there was multiple texts, there was multiple organizations saying, we're going to do this on this particular day. And then there was a massive intelligence failure.
Yeah.
Well, it totally makes sense.
And the reality is that the reason they went after Parler was not because of J6. It was because it didn't have the same back doors that the other social media platforms had.
And it was supposed to be just an alternative to Twitter because Twitter banned Donald Trump, and they were like, we're going to have Donald Trump on the platform. They're like, we can't have him speak to the people. Cut him off.
Yep.
And that's exactly why they went after him. Which is horrible.
Which it just goes to show how weak the establishment is. That if they have any free speech platform, they are an existential threat to, or at least that's how they perceive it. It's both encouraging and discouraging simultaneously. Like, it's encouraging because it shows their weakness. It's discouraging because it means that, like, we're in a real fight here. But it just means that there's only one way, and that's through.
Well, that's why, even back to this original story, it's like, if you have to silence people from being able to question your ideas, like, you're probably not on the right side of the issue. And on top of that, nothing screams, we don't rig elections, like, we're going to ban our political opposition from even running.
You know the guy who's leading in all of the polls?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to vote for him anymore because we're defending democracy.
Yeah, for democracy. For democracy.
Yeah, if you have to force your ideas on everyone, maybe your ideas aren't that great. Yeah. Maybe you should reconsider what you're trying to force down everyone's minds and throats when it comes to just destroying intellectual conversations and debate. And this is going to be a make or break moment for America, I think. This is going to be a make or break moment for Twitter, for Rumble, for a lot of the people who are in jail right now. There's a lot at stake here with this election, and sadly, I only see the stakes getting higher from here. I only see more states getting involved. I only see more underhanded kind of decisions that will undermine the will of the American people. What do you guys think is going to be happening next? Because this state attack on the ballot is one issue. I think there's definitely going to be more issues ahead of us. What's the next thing that you think is going to be the galvanizing Pearl Harbor-like event?
Well, Tucker Carlson has already talked about it, and I'll have to save it for Rumble, but it is an existential threat. I think that if their maneuvers to remove Trump from the ballot fail, which I think that they ought to if the Supreme Court does the right thing, then he is on the ballot. I think that he probably wins that election, and then all bets are off. I'll just leave it at that because I can't talk about it openly on this platform.
Well, I think in the near term, you mentioned, Luke, about the other states following suit. I did think it was hilarious that the lieutenant governor of California came out and said, hey, we're doing the same thing. And on an official government letterhead, she actually said that, there are two qualifications to be president, and one of them was to be 40 years old. It's like, okay, when
you get the number one thing wrong.
Yeah, by like 15%. Like, that's a pretty substantial. So we don't elect the brightest people. Sometimes we don't even elect people, but
sometimes they're just selected.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that in the near term, you're going to see other blue states jump on board. I think Colorado was one of those sort of bellwethers of what they can get away with. And that's concerning to me because now I see a bunch of authoritarians salivating about the opportunity to just pour fuel on this fire. And I don't know many people on the kind of authoritarian left that actually believe that Trump will be convicted of any of this or serve any prison or not be able to actually win. I hear a lot of people that are hoping they can beat him by distraction. So I think the next year is just distraction after distraction after distraction, because if you're having to pour all your money, your time, and your energy into fighting lawsuits and into dealing with these legal matters, like it's no coincidence they're putting trial dates on Super Tuesday and these different things. It's like they're clearly just trying to run this guy into the ground. and hoping that that'll be enough to not get it across the finish line. In the most extreme prediction, I have heard solid cases for people being like, we just might not have an election. I'm like,
yeah. Well, that's something I said a couple months ago personally myself. Before Colonel McGregor, before Roseanne Barr came out, I kind of made that statement myself, essentially looking at all the ingredients that were being added to this larger kind of chaos pie that we're all forced to eat that we really don't want. And you see a lot of gasoline being thrown on a lot of the kind of social initiatives and a lot of the programs that aren't bringing us together. They're bringing us apart more and more and more. And as I said before, corrupted individuals don't relinquish power easily. They don't do it very efficiently. They hold on to power as much as they can in very desperate ways, and I think that's going to be happening here. And you brought up a good point, but I also think it's a double-edged sword when it comes to kind of going after Donald Trump, because when you do go after him, he becomes more popular. He rises in the poll numbers more than anyone else in this kind of political election cycle that I have seen in my entire life. As every time they go after him, poll numbers go up. He's not participating in the debates. He's not participating in any of the old establishment, old guard kind of things that you're supposed to kind of do as a politician. His poll numbers are higher than ever. And at this point, how can you not try to support someone like this when the system is so overtly against him and doing so many illegal things to try to stop him?
What I've been thinking about with Trump is like, I've been really frustrated that he hasn't gone back on X since he's no longer banned. And
I think that's a miscalculation. I want to see him on Twitter. I want to see him poop posting. I want to see him memeing. I want to see him engaging with people. He has an opportunity. Elon Musk wants him there, and he's not taking that opportunity. He did tweet once after
the mugshot.
Yeah, the mugshot,
and it blew up.
Yeah. It was one of the most liked tweets ever, I think. Yeah. But what I've been thinking about it, though, is I thought that it was a terrible political miscalculation, and also it just decreased the quality of my life because I enjoy when he's on there just talking crap. But what I started to think about it was, well, as long as he's not really speaking to the broader public, you just have this kind of this vision of what he was in 2019. You don't even really think about what 2020 was. You just go like, 2019 was better than it is today, and that's enough. And in some ways, I think it may be prudent for him to be kind of biding his time. Come on, maybe 60 days out to the election. He's already got the primary in the bag. He just swoops into Twitter, blows up a bunch of journos publicly, and then sails into the White House. That was just kind of my thought. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think most people, again, we're really into this, and so we understand the existential nature of this. I think there are a lot of folks, in fact, I would bet the majority of folks that will end up voting for Trump in 2024 will be the people that say, I was richer, I was happier, I was healthier, life was more peaceful, we weren't at war. I remember those days, 2019, felt really good. My taxes were less. I had $3,000 more a year than I do now.
Right.
That's my guy.
And my groceries weren't. I didn't have to take out a second mortgage to buy groceries. So
we got a Rumble rant by Crash Bandit who says, "We are living in interesting times. Will TDS be terminal to this country? Only time will tell." Thank you for that Rumble rant, Crash Bandit. Do you guys think TDS will be terminal for this country?
It has. I mean, it has the hallmarks of a terminal case at this point. I mean, just that those polls saying that they're okay with him being removed from the ballot. I think that the vast majority of those people are the ones that are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And I can't believe that it's so persistent, like especially after you've been proven that the Steele dossier and the Russia collusion and he was spied on by the FBI. They filed false affidavits. You have the good people on both sides, all the stuff that's taken out of context. It's like time after time you've been lied to. You have to have realized it by now. How are you still afraid of this guy when Biden is actively destroying your standard of living? Actively, and you're still more afraid of Trump. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Russian collusion scam was predictive programming in order to kind of push us towards a conflict with Russia.
Agree.
And it was all set up, all based on lies. I remember calling it out, and the Wall Street Journal came out and put me on a list, and they said, Luke Rudowski, We Are Change. Russian state-funded organization. No evidence, no information, nothing. They're like, you're part of you're a Russian actor, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So we should have sued them. We should have went after them. But they truly do set up a lot of this stuff, and I think the war with Russia is going to be a major incident that they're going to be going after. Sorry, Michael, you had something else to say.
No, I was just going to agree that I do think Trump derangement syndrome is terminal for kind of a reason you just pointed out. Early on in the Trump days, I wasn't sure if he was this figure that existed in a silo. So he was this monolith that only represented himself. And so all the hatred toward him and all the derangement syndrome was just purely toward him. Or if he was basically the scapegoat for a much broader hatred they have, the authoritarians on the left here, the establishment folks, to anybody that challenges their power structures. I wasn't sure how that was going to play out. And I think very quickly on in Trump's presidency, it was revealed that like, oh, no. They just hate us. They hate all of us. And Trump is just the one that's on the tip of the spear. And so he's getting all of the... So my point in saying that is that I think one day, long after Trump's gone, the derangement syndrome will only have increased because it was never about him. He was just the one that blew up their plans. And it was actually toward me. It was toward my family. It was toward, you've seen what they've done going after Catholics and going after pro-life organizations and going after independent journalists and going after anybody that questions their war apparatus, going after us as a business for purely exercising the fruit of good, pure capitalism, which is competition. Like you'd never think in a million years that we'd face some of the opposition we've get from trying to uphold American small businesses that love our freedoms. Like that should be something we would all rally around. And yet even at Public Square, we have experienced derangement syndrome from our opposition.
What are some of the attacks that you guys have suffered?
Well, we have the media ones. MSNBC ran a big piece 2 weeks ago, called us a wacky alt-right platform trying to build a parallel economy and go all into how these quality brands are actually indicative of a deeper, sinister intention.
What makes you guys alt-right? You like the Constitution? Is that all it takes?
If it makes you feel better, Chris Matthews of MSNBC called me a right-wing racist teabagger a while ago, too. So they're not usually on point when it comes to their descriptions.
No. Southern Poverty Law Center called myself, the Mises Caucus, and the broader new iteration of libertarian movement. They don't like us either. So, we're in good company here. That's how I view it. The more the attacks, the more I feel like we're over target.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. I think TDS is here for the long haul. We just need to beat it.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the latest because I know you've obviously been very privy to the ESG movement, and that's why your company has been so successful because you guys are probably the best active participants in that fight. But Tennessee just announced a lawsuit against BlackRock for essentially misleading under some sort of consumer protection law. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't hit them on the fiduciary angle because I think that's a much more reasonable one and much more egregious what they've done. But I'm just curious, do you think that has the tide turned? Is ESG in retreat?
I think it is. And ESG has underperformed just objectively. So when you look at portfolios, there was a period of time where there were people like me and you and us shouting, saying, hey, ESG is a big problem. It's a Marxist ideology that disguises itself as an economic philosophy. It's social engineering, yada, yada. But the funds were still somewhat performing. And so it was very difficult for the message to translate as easy as it can now. Today, when we say that same message, that this is a distorted philosophy that's destroying our country and their funds are underperforming, it's getting these state pensions to be like, well, hold up a second. Right. Like the largest asset managers in the world are embracing an ideology that's leading to our fund underperforming. Like that's our pensions. So I think that's been hugely helpful, and it will get a state like Tennessee, Attorney General, coming to the table and saying, all right, like time to actually exercise some power against this. It's the government version of a class action lawsuit because he's rallying his constituents to go and fight the corrupt powers. So I hope on the fiduciary side, we do see more and more class action lawsuits. You started to see this a little bit when Target did the whole ESG thing because they had their first quarterly earnings miss in 6 years this summer in response to their Pride Month thing. The last time they missed their quarterly earnings, 6 years ago, the trans bathroom thing.
Oh, no kidding.
They didn't learn their lesson, and that's a perfect time for shareholders to rise up and be like, hey, that's my money. Like you're screwing the value.
I mean, whoever thought communists weren't good at business? They're good at making people skinny. I'll give them that. We got another super chat by Dick Dickerson who says, time to defend yourself, time to learn how to defend yourself. Also, Steph rules. Dick Dickerson, thank you so much. Steph, do you have a response to that?
Thank you, Dick.
All right. Clint, I think you had something to say. If you want to finish your thought, feel free, because I want to bring up the next story.
Sure. No, I just think that the angle that they ought to be taking, for those that aren't familiar with my background, I was a fiduciary because I managed hundreds of millions of dollars. That was my job. So when I first studied ESG, what I realized immediately was that these people are clearly at the highest level violating their highest duty, which is their fiduciary responsibility to their investors. And for the life of me, for years, I've just been pleading with someone to go after these people for it, because it's so obvious that they are putting ideology and kind of this as he described it, this Marxist philosophy ahead of their investors' capital interests. And it's just infuriating that these people are managing more money than any companies have ever managed in human history, anywhere on earth, and they are doing so against the interests of their investors. It's so crazy. And like, you see what happens to Alex, or I can't say his name, AJ. You see what happens to AJ. He gets hit with $1 billion fine. I'm like, where's Larry Fink's fine? Where is it? Come on.
And it's not just AJ. It's also Elon Musk, who's being sued in the same way by the same lawyers that went after AJ. It's also Rudy Giuliani, which brings up our story here perfectly, as he is now ordered to pay $148 million immediately, as a judge is warning that he could be trying to hide his assets in order to try to avoid paying the Georgia election workers, which he allegedly defamed. This is a major case, because it just shows you how legal lawfare is being implemented in such an unfair way. And it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you said. What matters is what kind of lawyers you got, what kind of judge you got, but more importantly, where are you going to have this court proceeding as a jury of your peers? Definitely has a new meaning now, especially with how politicized everything has gone in our society, and how many leftist centers, like in Washington, D.C., like in New York City, like in Atlanta, Georgia, specifically have a constituents of individuals who, of course, don't care about right and wrong. They care about punishing people because they expressed wrong political thoughts and expressions that they just don't like. And with the system normalizing this attack on individuals and their livelihoods and all of their financial security, taking all that money away from them has a huge impact, as of course this is Trump's former lawyer. Trump's former lawyers are being indicted. The people are going after them. They're losing a crap ton of money. They're not going to be able to, of course, survive or sustain themselves. This is also just another kind of chilling effect on a lot of people who now, of course, will have to think twice. Like, hey, I better be careful with what I say. I better not accuse people of the wrong thing. I better not make any kind of mistakes here, because unlike the corporate media, you're not protected by the establishment. And I feel the corporate media has gotten away with a lot of really horrible slander, libel, defamation, and just outright psyops that have led to the tremendous life loss of innocent human beings. Will they ever be held accountable? Will the New York Times ever be held accountable for all the lies about weapons of mass destruction? Nope. But Rudy Giuliani will, for making an offhanded comment about some Georgia election workers that will cost them $148 million that he's going to have to liquidate and give to them immediately, or else he'll go to jail, which is crazy.
What's even more concerning to me is, like, it's not necessarily that the jurisdictions and the juries are having these findings. In many of these cases, it is the judge themselves that is preventing a defense from being presented. That's what happened with AJ. That's what appears to have happened in Colorado with Trump. I don't know the details on the Giuliani case, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar story there. And it's just time and time again, you have these judges that are basically making a legitimate defense impossible. And then you don't have jurisprudence. You don't have a legal system at that point. You just have gulags and persecution.
Well, even judges now are valuing property. Giving assessments on property values in the town that I live in, by the way. And so if you can get Mar-a-Lago for $18 million,
dude,
then my house is improperly assessed. But I agree. I think if you look at Rudy Giuliani, 79 years old, and back to the question of, is TDS a terminal illness for the long haul? It's like, you're really going to ruin the rest of this guy's life because of who he supported and because he dared question election, even though, by the way, Stacey Abrams still questions her election in that state. So it's like it shows the human evil I almost even hesitate calling it human. It's almost more inhuman. At the core of these people, like the darkness that a human heart can achieve, that this guy is 79. He served his entire life for the betterment of people. Is he a perfect guy? No, of course. Is he kind of weird? Of course. Does he deserve to have to pay $148 million to? Of course not. No. It reminds me of AJ because it's the same sort of deal. $1 billion you have to pay because you dare speak out of turn. It's like, he doesn't have that money. We all know he's not going to pay that. But they do it because they want to send a message to you and to me to say, shut up. Don't question.
Exactly.
Yeah. The poor guy can't even get good hair dye. You know, I'm sorry, I had to. I had to.
That picture is classic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah, I mean, I have a checkered past with Rudy. Personally, growing up in New York City after 2001. I'll bring it up on Rumble. I'll be able to explain it there. But how can you not have kind of sympathy for the guy, even though we were like there was a lot of tumultuous things between me and Rudy. But looking at this situation, I remember being in an event where he was speaking at. I was there backstage. And usually I would have this opportunity, like, yeah, I'm going to turn on the camera, ask him some hard questions. But I'm like, why? Like, he's being attacked by almost every single vector of the establishment that are trying to destroy him because he represented the former president of the United States. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think this is why what you're doing, Michael, is so important, because legal lawfare and taking away the financial resources of individuals is their main kind of attack vector. And if we could actually vote with our dollars, if we could support independent media, if we could support companies that actually do good things, if we stop investing into the further enslavement and the destruction of our human life and will, all of this would stop if we would just make conscious choices with our dollar. A lot of people say, you got to vote, you got to vote, you got to vote. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of voting personally myself. I'm a big fan of you voting with your clicks, your likes, your attention, and more importantly, your dollars, which I think is key. It's essential. So maybe we could talk about what you're doing with Public Square. How does it kind of tie into all of this? As I think it's more essential than ever that we invest in the future fight for freedom and liberty in this country, and not invest in the people attacking us for being who we are and who prioritize essentially a population reduction policy that we're all being affected by in so many negative ways. I know it's a little bit of a tangent that I was just on,
it's true.
but how do you see this kind of moving forward?
It's very true. It's not a tangent. The desires out of the top of these major corporate entities are about smaller groups of, in their minds, more perfect people that get along with their ideas. Too much of that individual freedom thing and too much of you operate. Especially in a lot of these companies, by the way, that don't rely even on mass consumerism. Like you look at Salesforce, one of the largest software companies in the world, run by a guy named Mark Benioff. And Mark Benioff, when he amassed quite a bit of power through his enterprise software for businesses, with an awful customer service experience, by the way, sold out American workers. He gets huge. Then he decides to buy Time Magazine, calls himself the most anti-conservative CEO in the country, funds lawsuits against President Trump, silences Project Veritas and cancels them from his platform, makes his entire shtick political evangelism, and did all of this and amassed all of this through a lobbying juggernaut within his business. So he got his media buddies in, he bought Time, so he gets his cover in the media. And Jeff Bezos was the same way. Amassed Amazon, sold out a lot of what we cherished in our country, screwed a lot of small businesses in the process, buys Washington Post. The cycle continues. So for us...
And then works with a lot of intelligence agencies and intelligence-linked programs, especially when it comes to decrypting, encryption, and also facial AI recognition technology that is also very Orwellian as well. Sorry, I just had to
No,
get
you're
that in
right.
there.
Why does Amazon need... Didn't they buy 23andMe? They buy 23andMe or Ancestry.com, one of those. It's like, why do you need that, Amazon? You're a retail platform. Why do you need DNA lineage records? Like that? It is this global cabal. Amazon has 19 lobbyists focused on the FTC alone. It's an absurd enterprise. But point is, how do we counteract it? We have to shift the profit centers. And this is to your point. if we can actually move where the money goes and we can move the incentive and reward structures in society, we can change who profits in the equation, then ultimately we win. We push back in a pretty profound way. It's the thing that the tyrants are most afraid of. They are afraid of profits decentralized in the hands of we the people. They are horrified that you would have a free thought. They are horrified of Main Street, by the way. They do not like the idea that we'd be a country full of people that have thousands of options to choose from. They want to be a country full of people where it's Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Hewlett-Packard, and a few other friends of theirs. That's it. That's all you're allowed to have. You can't have a wide variety. And the illusion of variety is on their side too, because you'll go to the grocery store and you'll say, wow, look at all these products. And then you actually look at who owns them. Turns out it's 5 companies. Yeah. And so I think for us, we're really proud to be a marketplace of over 75,000 small businesses that are all independently owned and operated, run by families. Most of these are one location businesses. They service products in a really honest manner, and they make incredible stuff. Most of my outfit right now is Public Square. Most everything we do now is through Public Square. I bank through a Public Square bank. So
very cool.
I feel like my whole economic life has been decentralized and de-risked in a major way because I'm transacting with people that don't hate me and don't want to cancel me.
I just want to ask really quick, what do businesses have to do to qualify to be on Public Square? And what's kind of the vetting process?
So there's 3 parts to it. First is when businesses sign up, there's a little add your business button. And you see, as a part of the experience, 5 core principles. You can find those at publicsquare.com. And the 5 core principles essentially speak to what we stand for as a platform. We love life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We're not going to speak in a way that's against the family unit. The Constitution guides our steps, not government. That's actually our 5th value. It's that my rights are protected by the Constitution. Government did not give me my rights, so they cannot take them away. This was hugely important, especially during like the COVID season, for example, when government was trying to enforce businesses taking away individuals' rights.
I was one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you were. Yeah, we were in California, man. My goodness.
It's called California?
Yes, the People's Republic. And the second part after the 5 core values is that they're actually vetted by 2 things. Number 1 is a scoring system. So we wrote an algorithm called the PSQ score that essentially scrapes anything a business has ever posted on their social media or posted on their website. And it's flagging language. So it's looking for, is there a DEI thing? Is there an ESG statement? Is there some sort of inclusion initiative? Are they giving money to hyper leftist causes? Whatever it might be. It formulates a score 1 to 5, and that's like a helpful framework for us to understand where we need to start on a vetting process. And then the third part is the most important, which is actual human verification. So real humans in a room. We have 12 of them. Split between California and Florida that are basically going and scanning every business and their inputs, their profile, what they're building, vetting for 2 things, not just values alignment, which is what we talk about a lot, but also the quality of the business. We want to make sure that these businesses are ready to handle traffic. We've absolutely blown up businesses in a really positive way. We want to make sure businesses are ready for that and are providing a quality experience. So
I'm on the website right now highlighting the 5 core values that you guys have for everyone. We also got a super chat from Eric, and he's asking, I've been a user and supporter of Public Square since the beginning, and I love it.
Hey.
Could you explain the vision on where you would like it to be in 5 years and give us a rundown on how to implement it on a daily basis? Thank you.
I love it. First of all, thanks for joining us. Actually, Luke, were you there the first Timcast, August of last year? Were you there when the first time I was there?
I think I was. Yeah,
I think you were there.
Yeah.
Been on a few times, and I think you were there the first time. I remember that. We got the invite to come on and talk about Public Square, and we weren't ready, but it was amazing. We were ready in one way. We were excited about it, and thankfully the country through Timcast, which I know we're going to talk about a later story. Where apparently Mediaite doesn't think many people know about him.
We're not that influential. Yeah. The Beanie Man, we don't got to worry about him. He's nobody.
Our platform traffic speaks to the contrary. So first of all, I think it was Eric that chimed in. Thank you so much for the support. We've had a blast over the last 18 months. We launched almost 18 months ago. We hit 1 million members on the platform faster than Twitter, Airbnb, Spotify. The growth has been insane. And for us, the responsibility has been let's keep up with it and build a party that folks can come into and really enjoy. The future, as we look out 5 years, Two things I would note right off the bat. Number one is we really are going after an Amazon-like shopping experience. You'll see on November 1, we launched e-commerce. You can actually transact with a click of a button in our own shopping experience, which is huge. That's going to continue just advancing as we move forward with more and more vendors. We have over 75,000 now representing millions of products across different industries. We're going to continue building that user experience. The other thing I would say is that we are looking at owning the infrastructure underneath everything, meaning as time goes on, we've built a great customer acquisition channel. We're helping folks spend money with businesses that do not hate them. They can put purpose behind their purchase, have a trust-based transaction. It's awesome. Where we're going, though, is actually owning all the elements like payments that are underneath it. So PSQ payments is something we're really excited about that we've begun to build. There's a lot of elements that we're building that keep us cancel-proof and also allow us to then provide that service we build to our business vendors. Last thing I'll mention, I can't wait for retail. There was a day when we had community stores. You guys probably remember this.
Of course.
Small towns, you walk in and you've never recognized the name because it's owned by one family. It's not a part of a chain. It's independently owned and operated. And they've got your essentials in there. Do they have 70 brands for each product? No. They've got 2 or 3. It's your essentials. They've got some snacks in there. Maybe there's a deli in there as well. All the goods are sourced locally and you know the people behind the counter. There will be, my prediction, a new American Renaissance era where folks hunger for what feels antiquated today. I believe people are going to want that type of relational transaction experience. So while Amazon is going to the robot stores, you guys know, where you can walk in and you never actually have to talk to anybody and you can scan your stuff and walk out, we're going to go the other way. We're going to go back to community stores, and that's something that we've started to run.
So you're saying we won't get any digital RFID palm prints or face scans or retina scans to pay for our products conveniently to the corporate overlords that are working on enslavement technology that will destroy every sense of privacy that we have in our life?
We have not been taking notes from Sweden. We're staying away from the Sweden
Klaus
model.
Schwab does not like you.
That's so inconvenient. Yeah. Why can't I just pay with my biometric data that will track, trace, and database me and punish me for my political thoughts and expressions?
This is going to be really tough to roll out a social credit score with your company around.
Yeah. The Chi-Coms are not going to be happy with you, Michael. Okay,
but that means we're doing our job.
It's so great that you brought up the small town feel, because as you were talking, before you got to that line, the whole what I was trying to interject with was, this reminds me of small town America. It reminds me of when you go into those towns, which most of them are ghost towns now, by the way. If you drive through any of those older towns, they're almost gone. It's really sad. But what this reminds me of is basically an Amazon internet replacement or uplifting or revitalization of that kind of spirit. And I think it's so important. Actually, this is going to be critical of your new number one guy, Tucker Carlson. But I'm a huge fan of his. But he was on with Glenn Greenwald a couple days ago, and he was critiquing libertarian capitalism. And he was saying that libertarianism has ultimately led us to the dollar store way of life. And I just couldn't disagree more. What we're actually experiencing is not, as long as you have a central bank, first and foremost, you're not in a libertarian capitalist model. But what we've really experienced is cronyism bordering on fascism that has led to less and less choice, less and less options, a less and less free market, and totally the antithesis of libertarianism or capitalism for that matter, certainly not free market. So I think that companies like yours and all of the companies that you service are going to be really the next wave. And I hope sincerely that multiple billion-dollar corporations come out of the back end of your operations. I think it'll be an amazing blessing for our country. And ultimately, the only way we will outcompete China is to re-embrace free market capitalism, not to become more like them.
Yeah. Exactly. And what we're going through is kind of like crony corporatism.
Yes.
If you look at every aspect of our economy, it is rigged. It is manipulated to the point where it's unfair for everyone. Mm-hmm. How are we supposed to compete with all these tax incentives, with all these kickbacks, with all this money, with all these secret bailouts that are happening from the Federal Reserve Bank that's literally going to all these corporations and saying, you lost a little bit of money? Don't worry, we'll cover it. You made some money? Yeah, you keep it, no problem. The average American doesn't have that luxury of being bailed out continuously. And there were secret corporate bailouts that happened during COVID, that happened during 2008 that most Americans don't know about, that shifted the economic landscape in such a horrendous way that now we're dealing with the ramifications of it. And guess what, folks? It's only going to get worse from here, as of course, the levels of manipulation, the levels of money printing are just astronomical, and they're only going to go up from here. And this is why supporting local businesses, supporting individuals who actually stand by your ideas and beliefs is going to be crucial, because there might be a situation, and look, I studied this, and I traveled to a lot of countries that dealt with hyperinflation. What matters most during those types of situations are the networks and communities you have. So going local, supporting your businesses that actually align with your political ideas and beliefs, being able to barter with them could mean life or death for a lot of individuals. And again, I've been to Zimbabwe, I've been to Venezuela, I've seen it all. I've heard the stories of individuals literally going to the supermarket, and in their time, the price of groceries literally doubling or tripling just through their shopping experience. All the restaurants there literally have stickers with new prices there every single day because of the level of inflation that the poor people had to go through, as everything that they worked for literally was just melted away right in front of them like ice. And that, to me, is one of the biggest injustices in this world. The level of economic inequality, the level of economic attack that poor people sustain, especially through inflation, that, to me, in my opinion, is criminal.
Well, I've made this point before, but just to give people perspective on what we're talking about, it took over 200 years of American history until the 1980s when we hit our first $1 trillion national debt. We've racked about $2 trillion over the past 12 months. So 200 years to get to 1 year to get to 2 more. We're at about 34 trillion. We are in the hockey stick phase of this, the parabolic rise phase, and it's going to be very, very painful. Either they're going to have to maintain the interest rate hiking cycle, which Jerome Powell has stayed pat on for now, but he's now signaling that 3 cuts are going to come next year, which means the inflationary spigot gets turned back on, or he holds steady at the Fed funds rate where it's at today, in which case we likely have a spiraling liquidity crisis across the banking industry, a la 2008, 2009. It's going to be painful either way, is my point. So the small business outlets and doing business with companies you want to support and keep alive will be more important than ever.
Mm-hmm. But also for your safety, and also for your well-being. And again, those relationships that you have in your community during a time of crisis are going to be more important than ever. And it doesn't have to be a political crisis. It could be a natural disaster. It could be solar flare, whatever it could be. The local relationships you have, the relationship you have with your neighbors, the relationship you have with local businesses, more important than ever. So, Michael, I think what you're doing is very important, bringing people together, letting people know that, hey, I stand behind these values. You could find me here. You have a map, too. Is the map active yet?
Oh, yeah.
No. So yeah, you could literally go on Public Square, you go on the map, and you're like, okay, I could find a business here, here, and here, and here. And what better way to vote with your dollar and make it as easy, as simple as you can with Public Square. So I thank you for doing that, as, of course, the national debt very close to $34 trillion. It is $33.9 trillion right now. And we might reach 34 by the end of this year, as we are very close to, of course, just record levels of U.S. money printing that there's no going back from. And this is why your support, again, is more crucial than ever. We thank everyone for doing the super chats and the Rumble rants and the Streamlabs. It means a lot to us, and it's really awesome to see this level of kind of participation in this kind of news organizations. Now we're going to be moving away from this technocratic, censorious digital gulag known as YouTube. And we're going to be moving over to a free speech bastion that is fighting, especially in a court of law, especially with the lawsuits, for your individual free speech, for you to discern information for yourself as a grown adult. Yes, the people fighting for you to be able to discern information and hear both sides of the story is the platform that we are going to be going over right now, leaving YouTube. There's a bunch of you guys here on YouTube. What are you doing? get out of here. Go on rumble.com/wearechange. Rumble.com/wearechange. As this conversation is continuing, and there's going to be some shots fired against the Beanie Man. There's going to be some interesting conversations surrounding South Park, dating, an Epstein list. We're going to get into all of that stuff, plus a lot more. All the stuff that we can't talk about here on this censorious platform will be talked about specifically on Rumble. Michael, before we go over there for the YouTube audience, any last words for them, and where can they find you and support what you're doing?
Well, if you want to change the country with the power of your wallet, you can head to publicsquare.com. We'd love to help you do that, and we can connect you to an incredible marketplace of people that would love to serve you with customer service, quality, excellence, meritocracy, a feeling of old school Americana. I love it. So I love what we built. Love building it with you. Head to publicsquare.com. I'm on X as well, at Real Michael Seif. The first 4 letters of my last name, Seif, and post there most days. So would love to talk about economics, politics, culture with you on that platform. And thanks, guys, for having me.
Yeah, if Josh is watching, by the way, let's add all that information that Michael just said into the description, and let's change the Rumble title to something like "Shots Fired at Beanie Man Tim Pool," let's change that title on Rumble. Clint, where can people find you?
Well, stop giving your money to companies that hate you. Stop it. Go to Public Square, sign up. Go to Rumble, sign up. Support the people that are actually putting out like honest, real content. Stop feeding the beast. All right, thank you. At Liberty Lock Pod on X, Liberty Lockdown's the show. I will be back on YouTube next week. I have been on 30 Days Gone. But you can also find the latest on Rumble, which is dropping immediately after we finish on Rumble at 6 o'clock Eastern.
Steph, people again are trying to hear more from you. I'm just saying.
So I have an idea. I propose that we do a Public Square challenge where only buying from things on Public Square. That's it. At least like 1 week, and see if you can do it. Like,
Love it.
From your groceries, from your clothing, from the things you use in your kitchen to clean up and keep the house clean. How cool would that be if we can try to do like some sort of Public Square challenge? That's what I'm thinking.
All I ask is that when Michael Seifert becomes a billionaire, he doesn't start to build rockets and take testosterone like Jeff Bezos.
Hey, Clint, there's nothing wrong with testosterone, and there's nothing wrong with rockets, okay?
I did not know you were a big Bezos fan. All right, well,
I'm not a huge space guy. I don't like fake tans, and I'm happily married. So I think we're safe. I'm going down in the bottom of the ocean. That's what I want to do. I like the James Cameron. If I had the choice to go out to space or to go to like Mariana's Trench, I want to see the bottom of the ocean. That's where
last year that didn't go so hot.
No, you can't go in a tin can. Your soda can down the Titanic is not the move.
Hey, that soda can had a lot of DEI efforts. Okay,
you're right. It was very
had a lot of inclusive.
Yes. There was a very diverse captain class.
Yes, the death was very diverse.
Yeah. They really cared about their optics and race relations. So at least they had that. So we're gonna be talking about that plus a lot more. Go over right now. Get off YouTube. Foo. This is nasty. This is bad. Get off of here. Foo. No.